One before history was written, there were stories. And some have survived for thousands of years, whispered around fires, carved into stone, passed from lips to ears across generations. But which are the oldest? What was humanity's first story? What did our ancestors fear, believe, and dream about? In the shadows of time, long before books, movies, or even language as we know it, stories were how humans made sense of the world. They explained the sun and stars, love and loss, life and death. And those civilizations have crumbled, their tales have outlived them. Eternal echoes from the ancient past. Imagine myths older than the pyramids, sagas recited in forgotten tongues, and heroes whose names still carry power after millennia. These ancient narratives aren't just entertainment, they are windows into the souls of our ancestors. They reveal what ancient people valued, what they feared, and what they hoped for beyond their fleeting lives. Some of these stories shaped religions, while others built entire cultures. Yet, astonishingly, many are connected by shared themes, like great floods, epic battles, and the search for meaning that cross time and geography. What truths might they hold about human nature itself? Our journey today will take you through the oldest known stories ever recorded, tales of gods, kings, love, war, and the mysteries of life and death. You'll meet Gilgamesh, the first literary hero, whose grief for his friends still stings through stone tablets. You'll witness Marduk's cosmic battle with chaos to form the world. You'll stand on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where a divine charioteer reveals the secrets of duty and destiny. But there's more. Stories of floods that predate Noah's Ark, spells from Egypt guiding souls to the afterlife, and even the world's first autobiography, penned by an Egyptian exile longing for home. But here's the twist. Many of these ancient tales hide mysteries that could reshape how we see history. Did the Great Flood really happen? Is there a forgotten truth behind humanity's earliest myths? And why do stories from cultures separated by oceans share the same themes of creation and destruction? From heroic epics to cosmic myths, these stories shaped our world. But their secrets may surprise you. Stay with us as we uncover the 10 oldest stories ever told, tales that, despite their age, still have the power to move, shock, and inspire. In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, between the legendary Tigris and Euphrates rivers, stood the city of Uruk, a place of towering walls and unmatched splendor. It was here, in the cradle of civilization, that humanity's first great story unfolded. The Epic of Gilgamesh, carved into clay tablets over 4,000 years ago, is more than a tale. It is the foundation of every hero's journey that followed. Yet, it is also a deeply human story about friendship, grief, and the desperate search for meaning in the face of death. The tale begins with Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, a man 2/3 god and 1/3 human, powerful, proud, and restless. His strength is unmatched, but so is his arrogance. The people of Uruk suffer under his harsh rule and pray for relief. Their cries reach the heavens, and the gods respond, not with punishment, but with companionship. They create Enkidu, a wild man raised by animals, a match for Gilgamesh in strength and spirit. Enkidu's arrival marks the beginning of a legendary friendship. When the two titans clash in a ferocious battle, neither emerges victorious, but both gain something greater: respect. Their bond becomes a symbol of loyalty and brotherhood, the heartbeat of the epic. Together, they embark on daring adventures. Their first great trial leads them to the cedar forest, home of the monstrous guardian Humbaba. Gilgamesh, driven by the desire for glory, seeks to conquer the beast. The battle is brutal. Humbaba's roar shakes the earth and his breath scorches the trees. But united, Gilgamesh and Enkidu prevail. Humbaba, defeated, pleads for mercy, but Gilgamesh, swayed by pride, delivers the fatal blow. This act of defiance earns the wrath of the gods, for Humbaba was a sacred guardian, and his death disturbs the balance of nature. The consequences arrive swiftly. The goddess Ishtar, captivated by Gilgamesh's strength, offers him her hand in marriage. But Gilgamesh, mocking her past betrayals, rejects her with scorn. Humiliated and enraged, Ishtar sends the bull of heaven to ravage Uruk. Once again, Gilgamesh and Enkidu fight side by side, slaying the celestial beast. Their triumph, however, comes at a cost. The gods decree that one of them must die for their arrogance. The chosen is Enkidu. Enkidu's death is slow and agonizing, and Gilgamesh watches helplessly as his beloved friend slips away. His grief is raw, his mourning relentless. He roams the wilderness, tearing his clothes and cursing the gods. In his lament, he asks the question that has haunted humanity since time began. Shall I not die like Enkidu? Sorrow has entered my heart. Enkidu's death marks a turning point. Haunted by loss and terrified of his own mortality, Gilgamesh sets out on a desperate quest to conquer death itself. His journey takes him through scorched deserts and over towering mountains until he reaches the twin peaks of Mashu, guarded by scorpion men. Beyond them lies the road of the sun, a path of darkness where the sun passes each night. But his destination lies further, across the waters of death, where no mortal may tread. There he finds Utnapishtim, the immortal man, the only human to survive the god's wrath. Utnapishtim recounts the story of a catastrophic flood, a tale eerily familiar to later generations. The gods, angered by humanity's clamor, sent a great deluge to cleanse the earth. Warned by the god Ea, Utnapishtim built a vast boat, preserving life from destruction. When the waters receded, he released a dove, a swallow, and a raven, the same symbols that would appear in the later story of Noah. As a reward for his obedience and survival, the gods granted him and his wife eternal life. But for Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim offers no such gift. Instead, he sets a test. Stay awake for 6 days and 7 nights. If he can conquer sleep, the little death, perhaps he is worthy to conquer death itself. Yet exhaustion claims Gilgamesh immediately, and he sleeps through the entire challenge. Time, like sand, slips through his fingers. Despite his failure, Utnapishtim grants him a parting gift, knowledge of a plant that restores youth hidden at the bottom of the sea. With newfound hope, Gilgamesh dives into the waters and retrieves the plant. But fate is cruel. As he rests, a serpent slithers forth and steals the plant, shedding its skin as it disappears, a symbol of rebirth, mocking his quest. The secret of immortality is lost to him forever. Broken and weary, Gilgamesh returns to Uruk. Yet, in his failure, he finds wisdom. He stands before the mighty walls of his city, not as a hero, but as a man who has learned the hardest truth. Immortality is not in living forever, but in the legacies we leave behind. He realizes that his true achievement is not his conquests or his strength, but the city he has built, the people he has led, and the stories he has inspired. His journey ends not with immortality, but with understanding. And in that understanding, he becomes immortal, not in body, but in memory. The impact of the Epic of Gilgamesh reverberates through history. It is the oldest known hero's journey, the archetype that would inspire countless legends from Hercules to King Arthur. Its themes of friendship, loss, and the search for meaning are universal, resonating through time and culture. Most intriguing is its flood story, a tale that predates Noah's Ark, suggesting a shared ancient memory passed down through generations and civilizations. But beyond its influence, the epic's true power lies in its humanity. It reminds us that strength alone cannot conquer death, and that the greatest battles are fought within the heart. Through Gilgamesh, we learn that it is not immortality that gives life meaning, but the finite moments we share, the love we feel, the friendships we forge, and the legacy we leave behind. His story, though carved in ancient clay, speak, broken and weary, Gilgamesh returns to Uruk. Yet, in his failure, he finds wisdom. He stands before the mighty walls of his city, not as a hero, but as a man who has learned the hardest truth. Immortality is not in living forever, but in the legacies we leave. In the beginning there was nothing but chaos, an endless, swirling abyss of waters. From this primordial void emerged 2 ancient forces, Apsu, the fresh waters, and Tiamat, the salt waters. Their union gave birth to the first gods, Lamu and Lahamu, followed by Anshar and Kishar, the horizons of heaven and earth, and finally, the mighty Anu, god of the sky. Yet from the moment of creation, conflict brewed. The young gods were loud and restless, their clamor disturbing the peace of the primordial deities. Apsu, driven to rage by the chaos his offspring had created, resolved to destroy them. But before he could act, he was betrayed and slain by Ea, the god of wisdom and magic. Tiamat, mourning her consort, was consumed by fury. From her watery depths, she created an army of monstrous creatures, venomous serpents, scorpion men, and terrifying dragons, to wage war against the younger gods. She placed at their head Kingu, her newly chosen consort, granting him the Tablet of Destinies, a symbol of supreme power over the universe. The gods, fearful of Tiamat's wrath, sought a champion to face her. It was Marduk, son of Ea, who rose to the challenge, but at a price. He demanded absolute authority if he succeeded. The gods, desperate, agreed and crowned Marduk their king. Armed with a net, a bow, and his mighty winds, Marduk confronted Tiamat in a battle that shook the cosmos. He unleashed his winds to trap her, filling her mouth with storms until she was bloated and helpless. Then, with an arrow swift as lightning, he pierced her heart. Her monstrous form collapsed, and from her slain body, Marduk began the work of creation. He split her corpse in two. One half he raised to form the heavens, the other he laid down to become the earth. From her eyes flowed the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, and her weeping became the springs and oceans. The mountains rose from her limbs, and her tail became the Milky Way, stretching across the sky. Yet Marduk's work was not complete. He turned to Kingu, Tiamat's consort, who had wielded the Tablet of Destinies. As punishment for his rebellion, Marduk executed him, and from his blood, mixed with the earth, he created humanity. Humans, born from a rebel's blood, were meant to serve the gods, building temples, offering sacrifices, and maintaining the cosmic order that Marduk had fought to establish. Thus, from the chaos of battle emerged a world governed by divine law, where humanity's role was to labor for the gods in an eternal cycle of creation and service. The Enuma Elish, with its grand themes of cosmic warfare and divine triumph, is more than just a story. It is a declaration of order over chaos, of civilization over primal anarchy. It portrays the universe not as a harmonious creation, but as a battlefield where power, violence, and victory shape the cosmos. Marduk's victory establishes a divine hierarchy, where gods rule and humanity serves, reinforcing the Babylonian belief that the universe thrives when order prevails over disorder. The themes embedded in the Enuma Elish resonate through time. The eternal struggle between order and chaos, the cost of power, and the legacy of divine authority. Marduk's rise to supremacy is not through birthright, but through conquest, symbolizing the Babylonian ideals of kingship, strength, cunning, and the ability to impose order on the unruly forces of the world. His creation of humanity from the blood of a rebel god is a chilling reminder that humanity's place in the cosmos is one of subjugation and duty. Yet it also hints at humanity's rebellious spirit, a legacy inherited from Kingu, the fallen god. But perhaps the most enduring power of the Enuma Elish lies in its echoes through other creation stories, particularly the Book of Genesis. In both narratives, creation emerges from chaos, the dark, formless waters that precede the world. In Genesis, God separates the waters above from the waters below, much like Marduk divides Tiamat's body to form the heavens and earth. Both stories feature divine speech as a creative force. Marduk commands the winds and shapes the cosmos, while in Genesis, God speaks light into existence. Even the creation of humanity carries a parallel. From dust in Genesis, from divine blood and earth in Enuma Elish. The serpent, a symbol of chaos in many traditions, appears in both narratives. Tiamat herself takes on the form of a great serpent-like dragon, while the serpent in Eden becomes the agent of humanity's fall. This connection between Enuma Elish and Genesis suggests something profound, that the creation myths we hold sacred are echoes of older, primal stories, shaped and reshaped by cultures through time. It is a testament to the shared human instinct to explain the mysteries of existence, where we come from, why we are here, and what forces govern our fate. Yet, where Genesis offers a moral order, a creation born from divine will, Enuma Elish offers a universe born from violence, where power defines righteousness, and survival is earned through conquest. The legacy of Enuma Elish extends beyond myth and scripture. It was recited during the Babylonian New Year festival, Akitu, reinforcing the king's divine right to rule. Just as Marduk imposed order on chaos, so too did the king maintain order in his realm. The myth was both a cosmic and a political statement. Chaos is the enemy, and only through the power of kingship can order be preserved. It also laid the groundwork for later hero myths, where cosmic battles and divine victories became central themes, influencing everything from Greek Titanomachy to Norse creation sagas. Yet the Enuma Elish is not merely a story of conquest. It is also a meditation on legacy. Marduk does not destroy chaos, he transforms it. From Tiamat's shattered body, he builds the world, a reminder that creation and destruction are intertwined. Even in death, Tiamat lives on, shaping the rivers, the mountains, and the sky. And humanity, born from the blood of rebellion, carries within it both servitude and defiance, the capacity for order and chaos, creation and destruction. In the end, Enuma Elish leaves us with a question as old as myth itself. Is creation born from harmony, or is it forged through conflict? Are we the builders of order, or the inheritors of chaos? And in the grand tapestry of existence, are we creators, destroyers, or something in between? Through the roaring winds of battle and the blood-soaked earth of creation, Enuma Elish reminds us that from chaos, all things are born, including us. The Mahabharata, the longest epic ever composed, stands as a monumental testament to human conflict, philosophy, and destiny. Spanning over 100,000 verses, this ancient Indian epic weaves together myth, morality, and the cosmic struggle between dharma, righteousness, and adharma, chaos. At its heart lies the devastating war of Kurukshetra, a battle not only of armies but of ideals, where brothers fought brothers, and the price of victory was ruin. But within this war, like a radiant jewel in a battlefield of ashes, lies the Bhagavad Gita, a dialogue that transcends time, delivering Krishna's divine counsel on duty, morality, and the eternal nature of the soul. The epic unfolds with a family torn apart by greed and ambition. Two branches of the Kuru dynasty, the righteous Pandavas and their envious cousins, the Kauravas, find themselves locked in a bitter struggle for the throne of Hastinapura. Despite attempts at reconciliation, treachery and injustice lead them to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where the fate of an age, an entire epoch, will be decided. Here, under a sky darkened by war banners and the thunderous sound of conch shells, the greatest warriors of their time gather for a battle foretold to destroy everything. But before the first arrow is loosed, time seems to stand still. On the eve of battle, Arjuna, the greatest archer among the Pandavas, stands paralyzed. His chariot, driven by none other than Krishna, his friend, guide, and the incarnation of the divine, pauses between the two armies. As Arjuna gazes upon the battlefield, his heart shatters. He sees fathers, brothers, uncles, and friends, people he loves, arrayed against him. His bow slips from his hand, and he declares that he cannot fight. In that moment of crisis, when the very foundations of his beliefs collapse, Krishna speaks. What follows is the Bhagavad Gita, a dialogue that transcends the war, the epic, and time itself. The Gita is more than a conversation. It is a cosmic revelation. Krishna, in his infinite wisdom, unravels the mysteries of life, duty, and the soul. He teaches Arjuna about dharma, the sacred duty that upholds the universe. He urges him to act without attachment to the results, to perform his role as a warrior because it is his duty, his very nature. Krishna reveals that life and death are but phases in the eternal cycle of existence. The soul, immortal and divine, can never be destroyed. You have the right to work, but never to the fruits of work. This central teaching of selfless action, of pursuing one's duty without desire for reward, forms the very core of the Gita. But Krishna's counsel goes beyond duty. It touches the cosmic order itself. He reveals his universal form, Vishvarupa, a vision of infinite faces, countless arms, and the entire cosmos within his being. Arjuna witnesses time devouring all, heroes, armies, and even the ages themselves. It is a terrifying, awe-inspiring vision, showing that the battle is but a part of a grand cosmic cycle where creation and destruction are eternally entwined. Through this revelation, Krishna reminds Arjuna that fate is inevitable. The end is already written. Yet how one meets that end, whether with honor, courage, and clarity of duty, defines one's soul. The themes of the Mahabharata are profound and all-encompassing. At its core lies the struggle between righteousness and ambition, between loyalty and morality. It forces its characters and readers to confront impossible choices. When is violence justified? Is duty more important than personal morality? The epic refuses simple answers. Bhishma, bound by his vow, fights for the Kauravas even though he knows they are wrong. Karna, cursed by fate, remains loyal to his friend Duryodhana despite his own tragic destiny. Yudhishthira, the righteous Pandava, lies during the war to achieve victory, sacrificing his ideals for the greater good. Through these conflicts, the epic explores the complexity of morality, not as a rigid code, but as a living, breathing force that must adapt to circumstance. The Mahabharata also delves deeply into fate and free will. It portrays life as a grand cosmic wheel, where every action, every choice, echoes through time. The war of Kurukshetra is inevitable, foretold from the very beginning. Yet the characters are not puppets of destiny. Their actions, driven by pride, vengeance, love, and duty, shape the path they walk. This duality, where fate and free will coexist, reflects the Hindu philosophy of karma. Every action has consequences, yet within those consequences there is always choice. The cultural impact of the Mahabharata, especially the Bhagavad Gita, is immeasurable. For centuries, it has been a cornerstone of Indian philosophy, spirituality, and moral discourse. The Gita's teachings on duty, selflessness, and devotion have influenced saints, scholars, and leaders. Mahatma Gandhi, for instance, called the Gita his spiritual dictionary, drawing from its principles to guide his philosophy of nonviolence and selfless service. In the fields of literature, theater, and art, the Mahabharata has inspired countless retellings, adaptations, and reinterpretations, resonating far beyond the borders of India. Yet the Mahabharata is more than a spiritual text. It is a mirror to human nature. It does not glorify war. Rather, it shows its horror. The victory of the Pandavas is hollow, won at the cost of family, honor, and peace. In the aftermath of Kurukshetra, there are no celebrations, only ashes. Mothers mourn sons, wives mourn husbands. The earth itself seems stained with sorrow. The Pandavas, having won the world, are left questioning the meaning of their triumph. It is a reminder that in war, there are no true victors, only survivors. In its vastness, the Mahabharata becomes a universe unto itself, containing every aspect of human experience. Love, hate, joy, sorrow, loyalty, betrayal, and the endless quest for meaning. Its characters are not distant, godlike figures, but deeply human, with virtues and flaws, triumphs and failures. And in their struggles we see our own, our battles between duty and desire, honor and ambition, selflessness and pride. Ultimately, the Mahabharata leaves us with questions rather than answers. What is right? What is wrong? Is peace always possible? The epic's answer is that life itself is a battlefield, and each of us, like Arjuna, must decide how to face it. But it also offers hope that through self-knowledge, selflessness, and devotion to a higher cause, we can transcend the chaos of life. As Krishna says to Arjuna, "He who sees inaction in action and action in inaction, he is wise among men." Through the clash of armies and the whisper of divine wisdom, the Mahabharata endures, not just as a story, but as a guide, a challenge, and a companion on the journey of life. In its epic scope and human depth, it stands as the longest epic ever written, and perhaps the greatest ever lived. The Egyptian Book of the Dead stands as one of humanity's earliest and most profound explorations of the afterlife. More than a book, it was a lifeline, an ancient guide to surviving the perils of the underworld and achieving eternal life. Known to the Egyptians as the Book of Coming Forth by Day, this sacred collection of spells, prayers, and rituals offered the deceased a map through the duat, the treacherous realm of the dead, where gods, demons, and judgment awaited. Crafted on a papyrus and inscribed in tombs, the Book of the Dead was not a single text but a compilation, evolving over centuries from the pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom and the coffin texts of the Middle Kingdom into a deeply personal and spiritual manual for the soul's journey beyond death. The journey through the afterlife was treacherous, a path filled with trials and guardians that tested the deceased's purity and strength. According to Egyptian belief, death was not the end, but a transition, a voyage into a world mirroring life but filled with dangers. Spells from the Book of the Dead, such as Spell 125, provided the deceased with passwords, charms, and incantations to overcome obstacles. They instructed how to pass through gates guarded by fearsome creatures with names like He Who Eats the Shadows and the Long-Horned Bull. The deceased would sail on the solar bark alongside Ra, the sun god, traveling through the 12 hours of night, each hour representing a different trial. Here, serpents, lakes of fire, and monstrous deities sought to devour the soul. The proper recitation of spells could transform the deceased into a bird, a lotus, or even a god, allowing them to escape traps and enemies. But the most critical moment of the afterlife was the weighing of the heart, a scene immortalized in countless tomb paintings and papyri. Upon reaching the Hall of Two Truths, the deceased stood before Osiris, the god of the underworld, accompanied by 42 divine judges. Here, the heart, believed to hold a person's memories, emotions, and morality, was weighed on the scales against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, balance, and cosmic order. Spell 30 from the Book of the Dead implored the heart not to betray the deceased during judgment, saying, "O my heart, do not stand against me as a witness, do not oppose me before the tribunal." If the scales balanced, the deceased was declared pure, and Osiris welcomed them into the field of reeds, a paradise of eternal peace where loved ones reunited and the land yielded abundance without labor. But if the heart weighed heavy with sin, it was cast to Amit, the devourer, a monstrous hybrid of lion, crocodile, and hippopotamus. The soul would be obliterated, suffering the second death, a fate far worse than any torment, for it meant total annihilation and the loss of immortality. There was no hell of fire and brimstone. Instead, the Egyptian concept of damnation was non-existence, the ultimate horror for a people who believed so deeply in eternity. Themes of death, justice, and immortality permeated every aspect of the Book of the Dead. Death, in the Egyptian worldview, was not an end, but a continuation, life's second chapter. Yet this continuation depended on justice, on living a life aligned with Ma'at, the principle that governed the universe. Justice extended beyond morality into cosmic balance. One's deeds, thoughts, and even intentions were measured. This belief profoundly shaped Egyptian society, emphasizing honesty, compassion, and respect for nature and the gods. Immortality, the ultimate goal, was not granted by faith alone, but earned through deeds, rituals, and remembrance. The Book of the Dead was both a promise and a warning that eternity awaited, but only the just could claim it. The legacy of the Egyptian Book of the Dead is immense, its echoes resonating through centuries of religious thought and mythology. Its depiction of a post-mortem judgment, where the soul faces a trial, its deeds weighed, and its fate decided, profoundly influenced later concepts of heaven, hell, and divine justice. In ancient Greece, the myth of Hades judging souls and the division between Elysium and Tartarus reflects Egyptian themes. Early Christianity, too, absorbed the imagery of judgment and the dichotomy of eternal reward and punishment. The very idea of a book of life, found in the Bible's Book of Revelation, echoes the Egyptian concept of a divine record-keeping account of souls. Even modern portrayals of the afterlife, where souls face trials, cross rivers, or seek paradise, trace their roots to these ancient beliefs. But the Book of the Dead was more than a theological text. It was a deeply personal guide, tailored to the individual. Papyrus scrolls were often custom-made, personalized with the deceased's name and specific spells suited to their life and needs. Wealthy Egyptians commissioned elaborate, richly illustrated copies, while simpler versions were made for the less affluent. Funerary amulets, inscribed with key passages, were placed with the body, ensuring that even those who could not afford entire scrolls would still have guidance in the afterlife. One of the most famous surviving copies of the Book of the Dead is the Papyrus of Ani, dating to around 1250 BCE. This beautifully illustrated manuscript, now housed in the British Museum, offers a vivid window into the beliefs and rituals of ancient Egypt. It shows Ani, a scribe, standing before Osiris during the weighing of the heart, his soul on trial. The papyrus is rich with detail, from hymns to Ra and prayers to Isis to spells that protect against serpents and drowning. Through these texts, we glimpse Ani's hopes, fears, and his unshakable faith that he would walk among the blessed. The cultural influence of the Book of the Dead extends beyond religion into art, literature, and popular imagination. Egyptian tomb art, with its vivid depictions of the afterlife, has fascinated explorers, historians, and artists for millennia. Writers from Dante to Poe have drawn inspiration from its themes of judgment and mortality. Even in cinema, from The Mummy to Indiana Jones, the Book of the Dead endures as a symbol of ancient wisdom and mystical power. Yet, the most enduring legacy of the Egyptian Book of the Dead is its assertion that life's meaning extends beyond the grave, that how we live echoes in eternity. It teaches that deeds matter, that truth and justice are cosmic forces, and that even in death, the soul's journey continues. For the ancient Egyptians, the afterlife was not a distant dream, but a certainty, and the Book of the Dead was their compass. In every spell, every invocation, there is a voice reaching across time, a voice that says, "Live truthfully, love deeply, honor the divine, for the heart remembers, and the scales never lie." The Egyptian Book of the Dead stands not only as a guide to the afterlife, but as a testament to humanity's eternal quest to understand death, justice, and immortality. Through its pages, the ancient Egyptians invite us into their world, a world where life and death are one, and where the soul, if true, may rise with the sun and live forever. In the silent, formless expanse before the dawn of time, there was no sky, no earth. Only a boundless, churning abyss known as Nu, the primordial waters of chaos. From this cosmic sea, veiled in darkness and mystery, emerged the Ogdoad, a group of 8 primordial deities whose breath and struggle would give rise to the universe. This ancient myth, known as the Ogdoad cosmogony, is one of the oldest and most enigmatic stories of creation from ancient Egypt, predating even the more famous Heliopolitan and Memphite myths. Yet, despite its profound significance, it remains a lesser-told legend, shrouded in obscurity but pulsing with cosmic wonder and spiritual depth. The Ogdoad consisted of 4 divine couples, each embodying a dual aspect of the primordial forces that existed before the world. These pairs were Nun and Nonet, representing the primeval waters; He and Het, embodying infinity and endlessness; Kek and Keket, personifying darkness and the unknown; and Amun and Onet, symbolizing the hidden and the unseen forces of the cosmos. Together, they formed a sacred harmony, a cosmic balance of male and female energies, each pair a reflection of duality, the principle that would become central to Egyptian thought. In their union, chaos was not destruction but potential, an infinite sea of possibilities waiting to take form. As the 8 deities swirled within the primordial waters, their movement generated the first stirrings of creation. It was said that from their union emerged a great mound, a primordial hill known as the Benben, rising from the endless sea. This mound, shimmering with potential, was the first solid ground, the first anchor of existence. Atop this sacred mound, life began its journey. And then came the miracle, the first sunrise. The ancient texts tell of a divine entity, sometimes identified as Ra, the sun god, emerging from a lotus flower that blossomed on the surface of the primordial waters. With his first rays, Ra shattered the eternal darkness, and the cycle of day and night was born. In other versions, it was the cosmic bird, the Bennu, the phoenix of Egyptian myth, whose cry marked the birth of time itself. This bird, radiant with fire, heralded the rhythm of creation, death, and rebirth, a cycle that would become the heartbeat of Egyptian cosmology. Yet, beneath the serenity of this first dawn lay a profound truth. The Ogdoad were not merely creators, but also embodiments of chaos. Their existence reminded the universe that creation and destruction were eternally intertwined. Even Ra, the great sun god, would descend into the underworld each night to battle Apophis, the serpent of chaos, before rising again at dawn. The Ogdoad, though primordial, remained ever present, an eternal force below the surface of creation, ready to reclaim all into the waters of Nu should the cosmic order Ma'at ever collapse. This myth, rich with symbolism, explores the deepest themes of existence: duality, creation from nothingness, and the eternal cycles of life and death. Duality was central: light and dark, order and chaos, creation and destruction. The male and female aspects of the Ogdoad were not opposites but complements, 2 halves of a cosmic whole. Creation from nothingness was a cornerstone of Egyptian belief. The universe did not emerge from conflict or violence, as in many myths, but from balance, harmony, and the sacred potential within chaos. And cycles of day and night, life and death, order and chaos formed the eternal pattern of the cosmos. The Egyptians saw the world as a wheel, ever turning, with every ending a prelude to a new beginning. Though lesser known, the Ogdoad cosmogony profoundly influenced Egyptian thought and religion. Temples dedicated to this myth, especially in Hermopolis, Munu, the city of the Ogdoad became centers of cosmic knowledge and worship. The number 8, sacred to the Ogdoad, represented cosmic balance and infinity, appearing in art, architecture, and religious rituals throughout Egypt's history. The concept of the primordial waters, Nun, endured through all Egyptian creation myths, symbolizing the eternal source of life and the inevitable return to the cosmic sea after death. The legacy of the Ogdoad is also evident in later religious and philosophical systems. The notion of creation from chaos echoes in Greek cosmogony, where chaos precedes creation. The duality of male and female forces finds resonance in Eastern philosophies like yin and yang, representing the balance of cosmic forces. Even within Christian theology, the symbolism of the divine emerging from waters, as seen in the story of baptism and the creation account in Genesis, reflects echoes of the Ogdoad's primordial sea of life. Yet despite its profound impact, the Ogdoad cosmogony remains a rarely told tale, a hidden jewel within the treasure trove of Egyptian mythology. Its mystical depth often overshadowed by the grandeur of Ra's sunboat or Osiris's underworld. But therein lies its power. It is a myth of mystery, of the unseen forces that shape all things. While the stories of Osiris and Horus are human dramas played against divine backdrops, the Ogdoad is a cosmic symphony, silent, vast, and eternal. But why did the Egyptians veil this creation myth in obscurity? The answer may lie in its nature. The Ogdoad represents the before, the time before time, the forces before form. It is a myth that does not comfort but confronts the immensity of the unknown, the chaos from which all life arises and to which it will return. It is a creation story not of triumph, but of balance, where the only victory is the continuation of the cycle. In the end, the Ogdoad cosmogony offers more than a creation myth. It offers a philosophy of existence. It teaches that creation is born from chaos, that light cannot exist without darkness, and that every sunrise carries the promise of renewal. It reminds us that the universe is not a battle to be won, but a balance to be maintained. And it assures us that even in the face of destruction, there is always the potential for rebirth. As the ancient Egyptians believed, at the end of all things, the universe would collapse back into the waters of Nu. But from those waters, silent, infinite, and formless, a new creation would rise. The Ogdoad would stir once more, guiding the cycle into eternity. Long before the tale of Noah's Ark, or the flood in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there was Atrahasis, the Sumerian account of a catastrophic deluge that threatened to wipe humanity from existence. Inscribed on ancient clay tablets over 3,000 years ago, the story of Atrahasis offers one of the earliest and most profound explorations of divine wrath, human survival, and the fragile relationship between gods and mortals. It is a story of chaos and mercy, of destruction and renewal, whose echoes would ripple through religious traditions and flood myths across cultures for millennia. The world of Atrahasis begins not in harmony, but in labor and discontent. In the time before humanity, the lesser gods, known as the Ajigi, toiled endlessly to maintain creation, digging rivers, cultivating fields, and bearing the burdens of the cosmos. Weary and resentful, they revolted against their overlords, the greater gods, led by the powerful Enlil, god of earth and storms. Desperate to quell the rebellion without losing their divine workforce, the gods devised a solution. They would create humans to bear the burdens of labor. From the clay of the earth mixed with the blood of a sacrificed god, humanity was formed, both mortal and divine, bound to toil and serve their creators. But the gods' solution soon became their curse. As humanity multiplied, so did their noise. The cries of cities, the clamor of festivals, the endless roar of life itself. The once silent world now echoed with the ceaseless sounds of human existence. Enlil, the lord of storms, grew restless and enraged. To him, humanity's noise was not celebration but disturbance, an affront to divine peace. His wrath was swift and merciless. First, he sent a deadly plague, hoping to silence the earth. Yet, the mortal world did not succumb in despair. Under the guidance of Enki, the god of wisdom and water, humanity learned to placate the gods with offerings and prayers, and the plague withdrew. But Enlil's anger did not abate. Frustrated, he struck again, this time with famine and drought, drying the earth and starving humanity into submission. Once more, Enki defied his fellow gods and whispered salvation to the mortals, teaching them survival through ingenuity and prayer. Again, humanity endured. Enlil, however, would not be denied. His patience exhausted, he resolved to unleash his ultimate punishment, a flood, vast, merciless, and absolute, to drown the world and end humanity forever. Yet salvation emerged from defiance. Enki, compassionate and cunning, could not bear to see his creation destroyed. Bound by an oath to the gods not to intervene directly, he chose a mortal, Atrahasis, to be his vessel of salvation. Through a dream, Enki warned Atrahasis of the coming deluge and instructed him to build an ark, a great boat sealed with bitumen, broad and sturdy enough to preserve life from the watery onslaught. Atrahasis, a man of great wisdom and piety, obeyed without question. He gathered his family, animals of every kind, and provisions for the journey, sealing himself within the vessel as the skies darkened and the earth trembled. The flood came with fury beyond imagining. The heavens opened, and the waters of the abyss rose to meet them, swallowing mountains and cities alike. The cries of the dying were drowned in the roar of the deluge. For 7 days and 7 nights, chaos reigned, a world without sky, without land, only an endless, churning sea. Even the gods, witnessing the devastation, grew fearful. The great goddess Nintu, the mother of creation, wept bitterly for her children, lamenting the destruction of humanity and the emptiness of the earth. In their anger, the gods had brought ruin not only to mortals but to the balance of the world itself. When the waters finally receded, Atrahasis opened his ark and stepped into a world reborn, silent, desolate, yet filled with the promise of renewal. He offered a sacrifice of gratitude to the gods, and the scent of the offering rose to the heavens. The gods, hungry and regretful, gathered around, soothed by the mortal's devotion. Yet, the aftermath demanded resolution. Enlil, confronted with the consequences of his wrath, acknowledged his excess. Enki proposed a new order, one that would control humanity's growth without annihilation. Mortality, disease, and barrenness would now limit human numbers, ensuring that their clamor would never again threaten the gods' peace. The tale of Atrahasis is more than a flood story. It is a meditation on the fragile relationship between creators and their creation. At its heart lies the theme of divine wrath and survival, the destructive power of the gods tempered by the resilience of humanity. It also explores the cost of life and labor, posing a profound question. What is humanity's place in a world governed by divine forces? The gods create humans to ease their burdens, only to resent their vitality and spirit. Yet it is the human spirit, embodied in Atrahasis, that earns survival, not through strength, but through wisdom, piety, and obedience to the divine. The myth also resonates with the theme of balance between creation and destruction, reflecting the Sumerian understanding of cosmic order. Enlil's flood is not an act of cruelty, but of correction, a harsh reminder that nature and the divine demand respect and balance. Yet, the gods themselves are not omniscient or infallible. They regret, they mourn, and they learn. Enki's compassion stands in contrast to Enlil's wrath, symbolizing the duality of divine will, mercy and judgment, creation and destruction. Perhaps most significantly, Atrahasis stands as the precursor to later flood myths, most notably the flood stories in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Hebrew Bible's account of Noah. In the tale of Utnapishtim from Gilgamesh, we see clear echoes of Atrahasis, divine warning, a constructed vessel, and a world cleansed and reborn. The story of Noah, too, carries the same essence, humanity saved through divine instruction, an ark as sanctuary, and a covenant sealed by sacrifice. Across cultures and centuries, this story endured, evolving but retaining its heart, that humanity survives not despite the divine, but through partnership with it. In the end, the story of Atrahasis is a timeless reflection on survival, divine justice, and the human condition. It reminds us that humanity's existence is precarious, a balance between chaos and order, mortality and immortality, wrath and mercy. Yet within this balance lies hope. For even in the face of divine anger, humanity endures, not through power or defiance, but through wisdom, humility, with gods. In the beginning, before the mountains stood and the rivers flowed, there was only sky and sea, an endless expanse of nothingness. From this cosmic silence emerged the creators, Heart of Sky, Hurakan, and Heart of Earth, Tepho and Gukumats, whose thoughts shaped the world into being. Their words brought forth the land, the sun, and the stars. Yet the world remained incomplete, for it lacked the most vital creation, humans, beings who could worship the gods and honor their creation. Thus begins the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Maya, a masterpiece of myth, history, and spiritual wisdom that weaves together the cycles of creation, destruction, and rebirth, an epic of gods, monsters, and the destiny of humanity. The tale of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Spelunky, stands at the heart of the Popol Vuh, embodying the eternal struggle between light and darkness, life and death. The twins were born from tragedy. Their father, Hunahpu, had been tricked and slain by the lords of the underworld, Xibalba, after being lured into a deadly ball game. Yet, from death sprang new life, as Hunahpu's severed head, placed in a calabash tree, miraculously impregnated the goddess Ixquic, who bore the hero twins. From their birth, Hunahpu and Spelunky were destined to confront their father's killers and restore balance to the world. The twins' journey into Xibalba was a trial of wit, courage, and divine power. The underworld was a labyrinth of traps and horrors, rivers of blood and scorpions, houses filled with knives and freezing cold. Yet the twins, armed with cleverness and supernatural gifts, outwitted the lords of Xibalba at every turn. They played the deadly ball game their father once lost, but when sacrificed, they did not die. Instead, they transformed, first into cats, then bats, and finally into the brilliant forms of the sun and the moon, ascending from the underworld and bringing light to the earth. Through their triumph, they avenged their father, defeated the darkness of Xibalba, and brought order to the cosmos, marking the cycle of day and night, the perpetual dance of life and death. But the Popol Vuh is more than the tale of the hero twins. It is the story of humanity itself, chronicling the gods' attempts to create the perfect human, a being capable of honoring their makers and sustaining the balance of the world. The first humans were shaped from mud, but they were fragile and formless, dissolving back into the earth from which they came. Dissatisfied, the gods tried again, this time carving humans from wood. These wooden people were stronger and could speak, but they lacked souls and gratitude, living without love for the gods or the earth. Angered by their hollow existence, the gods unleashed a great destruction, floods, jaguars, and falling trees, to wipe them from the earth. Only a few survived, their descendants becoming the monkeys of the forest, a reminder of humanity's failed beginning. Finally, the gods turned to the sacred crop of the Maya, maize, corn, the sustainer of life and the heart of their civilization. From the soft, golden kernels, they shaped the first true humans, beings of flesh and spirit, filled with wisdom and gratitude. These maize people, the ancestors of the Maya, were perfect. So perfect, in fact, that their vision was limitless. They saw the world as the gods did, from the earth's heart to the stars' furthest corners. Alarmed by their divine clarity, the gods clouded their vision slightly, ensuring that they would remain mortal and humble, yet deeply connected to the sacred earth from which they were born. Thus, humanity was finally complete, born from the same maize that would sustain the Maya physically and spiritually for generations. The themes of the Popol Vuh resonate deeply with the cycles of creation, destruction, and the power of the sun. Creation, the central act of divine will, is shown not as a single moment but as a process of trial and error, a reflection of life's struggle and imperfection. Destruction, too, is essential. It is not the end, but a clearing for new beginnings, a purifying fire through which creation is refined. And the power of the sun, embodied in the hero twins' final transformation, represents the ultimate triumph of light over darkness, life's eternal victory over death. Yet, the Popol Vuh is more than myth. It is the beating heart of Mayan cultural and spiritual identity. For the Maya, the book was both a sacred scripture and a history, preserving their connection to the divine and the cosmos. It was passed down through generations, first through oral tradition and later transcribed in the colonial period by the Quiche Maya. The reverence for maize, born from the creation myth, shaped every aspect of Mayan life, from their agricultural cycles to their ceremonies and cosmology. The hero twins' journey became a model of courage and resilience, their ball game symbolic of life's struggle against fate and death. Even today, the spirit of the Popol Vuh lives on, echoed in the ceremonies, art, and storytelling of the Maya people. Moreover, the Popol Vuh's influence extends beyond the Maya world, offering profound insights into universal themes shared by cultures across time. Its flood story, reminiscent of Sumerian and biblical deluges, connects it to a global tapestry of creation and destruction myths. The trials of the hero twins parallel the heroic journeys found in epics from the Odyssey to the Ramayana, where cunning and bravery triumph over impossible odds. And the cyclical nature of creation and destruction mirrors the philosophies of Hinduism and Buddhism, where the universe is born, destroyed, and reborn in an eternal cycle. Ultimately, the Popol Vuh stands as a testament to the Maya's profound understanding of the universe and humanity's place within it. It teaches that life is a cycle of creation and destruction, that struggle and sacrifice pave the path. The story begins not with heroism, but with flight. Sinuhe, an official in the court of Pharaoh Amenemhat I, finds his life upended when news of the king's sudden death reaches him. Panic seizes him, and without thought or plan, he flees Egypt, driven by fear and confusion. His escape is sudden, chaotic, a moment of instinct rather than reason. He crosses deserts, facing the brutal sun and the threat of bandits, his heart pounding with uncertainty. His exile takes him far from the familiar banks of the Nile to the lands of Rechenu, Canaan, where the customs, language, and people are foreign. Alone and adrift, Sinuhe's heart aches with longing for his homeland, and he begins a new life in an unfamiliar world. Yet it is in exile that Sinuhe finds unexpected fortune. He is welcomed by the chief of Rechenu, who offers him land and a place within his household. Sinuhe becomes a man of status, marrying into the local nobility and raising a family. His reputation grows as he proves himself a skilled warrior, defending his new home from enemies and earning the respect of his adopted people. He thrives, but beneath his outward success, a deeper struggle brews. Despite his wealth and honor, he is haunted by memories of Egypt, the land of his birth, the language of his childhood, and the king to whom he once swore loyalty. His prosperity in a foreign land cannot fill the void of displacement. Exile, he realizes, is more than distance from home, it is distance from self. The turning point in Sinuhe's journey comes when a challenger, a mighty warrior of Rechenu, confronts him. In a fierce, single combat, Sinuhe triumphs, a victory that solidifies his power but also forces him to confront his identity. The battle is not merely against a rival, but against his own displacement, his struggle to reconcile who he has become with who he was. His victory brings him glory, but it also deepens his inner turmoil. The more he achieves, the more he feels like a stranger, both in his new land and within himself. His heart yearns for Egypt, for the land that shaped his soul. In his old age, weary from success and burdened by nostalgia, Sinuhe's story takes a remarkable turn. A letter arrives from Pharaoh Senusret I, the son of the king whose death sent Sinuhe into exile. But there is no vengeance in the pharaoh's words, only grace. The king offers Sinuhe a chance to return, promising not only safety but honor. In that moment, Sinuhe is flooded with both relief and dread. He fears judgment, for he fled in panic without cause or betrayal. Yet, the pharaoh's mercy calls to him, and he recognizes that home is more than a place. It is reconciliation with one's past. Sinuhe's return to Egypt is both triumphant and tender. He casts aside his foreign robes and is dressed in the fine linen of his homeland. He is granted a noble tomb, an eternal home in the land of his ancestors, a place in the afterlife secured by the king's favor. Yet, his greatest reward is not his status or his tomb, but the restoration of his identity. He has come full circle, from fear to exile, from exile to understanding, and from understanding to peace. His journey is complete, not because he has conquered lands, but because he has conquered his own heart. The themes of the Tale of Sinuhe are timeless, resonating across cultures and eras. At its core, it is a story of identity, belonging, and redemption. Sinuhe's journey reflects the tension between self and society, between home and the world. His success abroad is shadowed by his longing for his roots, reminding us that prosperity without belonging is hollow. His fear of returning stems from shame, yet his return brings redemption, not through conquest, but through acceptance and grace. It is a narrative that frames identity not as something fixed, but as something forged through experience and reflection. The tale's profound exploration of personal struggle and growth marks it as the first truly human-centered narrative in literary history. Unlike the mythic heroes of legend, Sinuhe is vulnerable, driven by fear, shaped by longing, and redeemed by humility. His conflicts are internal as well as external, making him deeply relatable and profoundly human. His story is not about power, but about peace. Not the peace of victory, but the peace of self-understanding. But why does the tale of Sinuhe matter beyond its time and place? It is because it captures something universal: the experience of displacement and the search for home. Sinuhe's exile, with its loneliness and longing, echoes through the experiences of migrants, exiles, and wanderers throughout history. His return, marked by forgiveness and acceptance, offers a vision of reconciliation that transcends time. It reminds us that home is not merely where we are born, but where we are understood, and that true redemption lies not in erasing the past, but in embracing it. In the grand history of literature, the Tale of Sinuhe stands as a milestone, the first autobiography, not because it records facts, but because it reveals a soul. It shifts the focus from gods and kings to the heart of a single man, making it a monument to humanity itself. It is a story that teaches us that exile can be both a curse and a teacher, that identity is both memory and choice, and that the journey home is as much within us as it is before us. Through Sinuhe's voice across thousands of years, we hear a truth that remains unchanged. We are all, in some way, exiles, seeking not only a place in the world, but a place within ourselves. And like Sinuhe, our greatest journey is not across deserts or seas, but through the landscape of our own hearts. In the twilight of Roman grandeur, where the affairs of state and the clash of armies shaped history, there emerged a vision that soared beyond politics and conquest, a vision that gazed into the infinite heavens and contemplated the soul's eternal destiny. The Dream of Scipio, a philosophical masterpiece from Cicero's work De Republica, offers a rare glimpse into the Roman mind's cosmic and spiritual horizons. Through the voice of Scipio Aemilianus, the great general who would destroy Carthage and secure Rome's supremacy, Cicero leads us on a journey beyond the stars, where duty, legacy, and the immortality of the soul converge into a profound meditation on life's purpose and the vastness of the universe. The tale unfolds as Scipio Aemilianus dreams of an encounter with his adoptive grandfather, Scipio Africanus, the legendary conqueror of Hannibal. In this dream, the elder Scipio lifts his grandson beyond the earthly realm, carrying him through the celestial spheres. Together, they gaze upon the earth from above, a small glittering orb, insignificant amid the cosmic expanse. From this lofty vantage, Scipio Aemilianus witnesses the celestial harmony, the music of the spheres, an eternal symphony produced by the movements of the planets, unheard by mortal ears but resonating through the cosmos. In this moment, he understands the universe not as chaos, but as a grand, ordered system, governed by divine reason and eternal law. Yet, the Dream of Scipio is more than a cosmic tour. It is a lesson on the nature of duty and legacy. Scipio Africanus tells his grandson that true glory is not found in earthly triumphs or the fleeting praise of men, but in service to the greater good and the eternal laws of the universe. He reminds him that the soul is immortal, and its reward lies not in fame, but in virtue. Those who live justly, who defend their country and uphold justice, ascend after death to the celestial spheres, where they join the company of heroes and wise men. But those who pursue selfish ambitions remain bound to the mortal world, their souls weighed down by vanity and corruption. The elder Scipio warns his grandson that the pursuit of power and fame is fleeting and meaningless when viewed from the perspective of eternity. The earth, he observes, is but a tiny point in the grand expanse of the cosmos, a stage where human life plays out briefly before vanishing into the void. Yet, this cosmic insignificance does not diminish life's importance. Rather, it elevates it. For it is through duty, through service to family, country, and justice, that immortal life becomes eternal. The soul's true reward lies not in monuments or titles, but in the harmony of a life lived in accordance with divine order. The themes of the Dream of Scipio are profound and universal, resonating far beyond the world of ancient Rome. At its core lies the concept of duty, the idea that a life of service, guided by virtue and justice, transcends the boundaries of mortality. Cicero elevates public service and moral integrity as the highest forms of human endeavor, urging his readers to act not for personal gain, but for the common good. Alongside duty stands the theme of legacy, not as fame or power, but as the enduring impact of one's actions on the fabric of society and the universe. Through Scipio Africanus's vision, we are reminded that a true legacy is written not in stone, but in the stars, in the eternal memory of a life lived with honor. Yet perhaps the most striking theme is cosmic perspective, the humbling realization of humanity's smallness within the vast, ordered universe. Cicero's depiction of Earth as a tiny sphere amid an infinite expanse anticipates the discoveries of modern astronomy, challenging the Roman preoccupation with conquest and empire. This perspective shifts the measure of a life from worldly achievements to spiritual harmony. It reminds us that though we are small, our actions, our virtues, our duties are part of a greater cosmic order. The impact of the dream of Scipio has been profound, inspiring thinkers from antiquity through the Renaissance and beyond. In the centuries following Cicero, the text became a cornerstone of Roman and medieval philosophy, particularly through the commentaries of Macrobius, whose 5th-century analysis preserved and expanded its cosmic themes. Macrobius's commentary on the music of the spheres and the immortality of the soul influenced generations of scholars, linking Cicero's vision to the Neoplatonic philosophy that shaped medieval thought. During the Renaissance, Cicero's dream inspired humanist thinkers like Marsilio Ficino, who saw in it a synthesis of classical reason and Christian theology, a vision of the soul's ascent to divine knowledge. Even in modern times, echoes of the dream of Scipio can be found in the works of philosophers and astronomers who ponder humanity's place in the cosmos. Ultimately, the dream of Scipio endures because it offers more than a glimpse of the stars. It offers a vision of life's highest purpose. It reminds us that while our earthly lives are fleeting, our deeds echo through eternity. It challenges us to live not for conquest or applause, but for duty, virtue, and the eternal harmony of the cosmos. And in doing so, it grants us something more than immortality. It grants us meaning. In a universe both infinite and ordered, in the grand annals of world literature, few works rival the majesty and emotional power of the Shahnameh, the Persian Book of Kings. Composed by the poet Ferdowsi over 30 years and completed around the year 1010 CE, this monumental epic spans 50,000 verses, weaving together the myths, legends, and history of Persia from its creation to the Islamic conquests. Yet, within its sweeping battles and cosmic struggles lies a deeply human story, one of love, fate, and unbearable loss. Among its many tales, none resonates more profoundly than the tragic duel between the mighty warrior Rostam and his son Sohrab, a battle fought not against enemies but against destiny itself. The story of Rostam and Sohrab begins with a fleeting romance. Unaware that he has fathered a child, the great warrior Rostam leaves behind the princess Tamina, who raises their son Sohrab in secret. As Sohrab grows, he becomes a warrior of unparalleled strength, destined for greatness. Yet, his heart yearns not only for conquest, but for reunion. He dreams of finding and fighting alongside his father, unaware that fate has already set them on a path to tragedy. Sohrab, leading an army against Persia, unknowingly faces Rostam on the battlefield. The clash is titanic. Father against son, hero against hero, each fighting with the ferocity of lions, their hearts blazing with honor and pride. But fate, cruel and silent, guides their swords. After an epic struggle, Rostam delivers a fatal blow, and Sohrab falls. It is only then, as life ebbs from his son's body, that Sohrab reveals his identity. Horror and grief consume Rostam. His heart breaks as he realizes he has slain his own child. Desperate, he begs for a cure, but it is too late. With his dying breath, Sohrab forgives his father, and his final words become an eternal echo of love and loss. This heartbreaking tale is steeped in the themes of fate, loyalty, and heroism, pillars that define the Shahnameh. Fate, unyielding and cruel, casts its shadow over the story, reminding us that no power, not even a hero's strength, can escape destiny. Rostam, the greatest of warriors, is powerless against the unseen hand of fate. Yet, loyalty and courage shine through, even in despair. Sohrab's loyalty to his unknown father and Rostam's heroic might, even in his anguish, transform their battle into a monument of both human greatness and frailty. But the Shahnameh is more than an epic. It is the heartbeat of Persian identity and culture. Ferdowsi, writing during a time when Persian language and culture faced suppression, crafted his masterpiece to preserve the soul of his people. Through its stories of heroes, kings, and mythical beasts, the Shahnameh became a vessel for Persian values, honor, justice, and love of homeland. Its verses, memorized and recited through generations, became both a national treasure and a moral compass, teaching that greatness is found not only in victory, but in virtue. The legacy of the Shahnameh extends far beyond literature. It has influenced Persian art, music, and storytelling for over 1,000 years. Its heroes, Rostam, Sohrab, and the legendary King Jamshid, live on in paintings, operas, and even the oral traditions of villages across Iran. The work also became a source of pride and identity for the Persian people, a reminder that empires may rise and fall, but stories endure, carrying the spirit of a civilization through time. Yet, perhaps the greatest legacy of the Shahnameh is its profound humanity. Through the duel of Rostam and Sohrab, we confront timeless truths: the agony of loss, the weight of destiny, and the bittersweet nature of love. It teaches us that even the greatest heroes are vulnerable, and that the most devastating battles are those fought within the heart. As the final lines of Sohrab's life fade into silence, the Shahnameh leaves us with a question that echoes across time. Is it our strength that defines us, or our sorrow? Is it victory that makes us heroes, or how we bear the wounds of love and loss? And so the Shahnameh endures, not only as the Book of Kings, but as the book of the human soul, where every page is a reflection of our deepest fears, hopes, and dreams. Across continents and centuries, from the banks of the Nile to the heart of the Mayan jungles, from the deserts of Mesopotamia to the cosmic visions of Rome, these ancient stories have carried humanity's hopes, fears, and dreams through time. Though they come from different cultures, their voices speak the same language, the language of the human heart. In every myth, every epic, every legend, we find reflections of ourselves, our struggles, our triumphs, and our endless search for meaning in a vast and mysterious universe. What do these ancient stories reveal about us? They show that across time and geography, humanity has always wrestled with the same questions. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What happens when we die? From Gilgamesh's search for immortality to Sinuhe's longing for home, from the hero twins' battle in the underworld to Atrahasis' survival of the flood, each story is a fragment of the human experience. These tales are not just echoes of the past. They are mirrors of the present. They remind us that love, loss, courage, and the search for truth are not bound by time or culture. They are universal. Through these ancient voices, we also hear humanity's deepest fears and highest hopes. In the floods and cosmic battles, we find the terror of chaos and the yearning for order. In journeys through underworlds and across deserts, we encounter the human struggle with mortality. And in every hero, every seeker, every storyteller, we witness the courage to face the unknown, the courage to ask questions, to challenge fate, and to hope for something beyond the horizon. But these stories do more than reflect who we are. They connect us. They show that, despite the vast differences of culture, language, and time, we are united by the same desires and dilemmas. The search for meaning, the ache of loss, the hope for redemption. These are the threads that bind humanity's tapestry. And through storytelling, these threads stretch across generations, linking us to the voices of those who came before and those who will come after. So we leave you with a question. Which of these ancient stories speaks to your soul? Is it the courage of the hero twins, the wisdom of Sinuhe, the cosmic wonder of Scipio? Or perhaps it's the echoes of all of them, the shared heartbeat of humanity across time. If you enjoyed this journey through the past, hit that like button, subscribe for more captivating histories, and share your favorite story in the comments. After all, the greatest stories are those we tell together.